Okay, so we got a lot of people into some crazy stuff that doesn't really do them any good. Like ghillie suits. There's lots of people I know that like ghillie suits. Ghillie suits are for stalking, for the most part. It's for concealment, but primarily concealment for stalkers. You know, there's creepy masks. This right here, it does look creepy, don't it? This is for airsoft. Got a piece of metal in here. And these things are, I think they might pop out too, but I'm not certain. I don't want to try it. But it's so that when you're shooting these little 6mm BBs, it doesn't hit you in the eyeballs. Um, None of the holes that are in this are big enough to put one through. So you're safe reasonably. But you put this on. I guess they use them for paintball too, but that sounds a lot less safe because we're talking about something that's larger with a bit more weight and approximately the same muzzle velocity. Even though it's liquid, it hits hard. It's got a semi-hard coating on the outside and it helps to distribute the weight into the whole mask, but it's a lot. The ghillie suits were created by Caledonians, Scotsmen. They were made out of burlap, and it was just burlap sacks basically that were sewn to each other to make a suit. It was literally a burlap suit. That's a coffee pot stand next time, I think. Yep. This is a hat. I got it at Wally World. It was less than $3. Um, Comes with a COVID sneeze protector. This is for modern day. They have them in hot pink too. I was thinking about getting the hot pink one actually. Pink is my favorite color. It's the most manly color there is. Why is that? Tell me another color that makes men tremble in such a way. Not even purple. If a color scares men, it's a powerful color indeed. But that's not exactly a ghillie suit, is it? No, my hair is more like a ghillie suit. Helps to break up my outline a bit. My beard too. Natural colors. Helps to cover some of the areas of my face that have the chin line. Helps to give a definite definition to you. Any clothing you wear that's nice dress clothing like, it's going to have straight lines, and that's going to be a giveaway. Um, with this sniper thing, this is a Marine, and this is a link to his video on ghillie suits. He was a Marine Scout sniper. And he talks about how there's really no use for a ghillie suit in the civilian world. That's true, unless you just want to be left alone. If you want to go crawl off in the woods, people will think you're Ted Kaczynski. If you want to get away from the world because people are mean, you can't handle their cruelty anymore, you just want to get away from them. People always assume you're going to be a Ted Kaczynski and you're going to go shoot up 300 people at a nightclub or go burn down a Baptist church or something. Go blow up somebody's mailbox. No. primary purpose of a ghillie suit is concealment. There were some English landowners back in the day who hired Scotsmen to stop poachers. They would get some people from Scotland to come down and literally shoot anyone coming to poach the deer or any other animal for that matter. And these Scotsmen worked for these rich landowners and would kill you over a deer. Nice, huh? Sweet fellers. What do they do with you after that? Let's not get into that. That's not what this video is about. This right here, you can get this at any hunting or sporting goods type of place. It's camouflage netting. This one's got ovalish holes in it. They got quasi-leaf looking things that come out. It's low dollar, but I have two types here. This stuff is used it similar to the burlap. You can actually use this stuff to conceal you decently. You might want to get a can of camo spray paint flat and just give it a light dusting, like from a distance, just enough to, well, you see the shininess, and it's not really that shiny. It's not, but just that little bit makes all the difference in the world. You can tear this stuff. Tearing it actually does a better job, in my personal opinion. But a lot of snipers, their job is to be a gun carrier. That's the part that I'm against. You can disappear without pointing guns at people. It's not difficult. Now, if you notice on this side, it's not as shiny. Inside, outside, this is called blind material. This too. This is the better one. I actually haven't taken this one apart. I probably should right now just to see how it's looking. I'll hold it up to the gray background. Hopefully you can see it there. See right there. Raffle that up a little bit. It's pretty bushy already looking right there. Put a little bit of natural material in it. You get something quite spectacular. Now, I don't have a gun. That is a problem. No, it's not. If you're trying to get away from people, because people suck, you don't have to shoot people on the way out. That's stupid. You don't have to go stabbing people and hating people to death before you go. Just go. If there's a fight worth fighting, though, and it's important, and it does involve your friends and your family and your loved ones, well, I get if you don't want to dip out. You probably shouldn't dip out in that situation. But that's not my decision, is it? I only get to make decisions for me. My decisions are based on what I care about and who I care about. And that's pretty important. To me, anyway. A lot of the people who are angry at me are people that I love as well. They're not bad people for screwing up. But they have, did, and will continue to screw up the rest of their lives. Which many of you will hate them for no matter what. However, you're going to screw up for the rest of your life, and so am I. Nobody is perfect. That's not an excuse not to try to be. Not to try to be perfect in your treatment of others. But you know what? There gets a point where you have to defend yourself. You can't just lay down and take it any longer. You have to do something. You better fall in line if you don't want that beaten. That's the moral of the story that we're trying to sell, isn't it? Do as you're told. Do as you're told. Give us your money. Give us your money. They took so much of my money before I even got a chance to go to court that I couldn't go to court. If it weren't for others, I'd have never made it to hardly any of my court dates. People like Brandon Ratner. But a lot of these people understand my wanting to get away from people. And not being seen is important. If you're going to go marching off into the woods, never to be heard from again, go off into the woods and stay there. Don't ever come back down into society. Don't try to seek revenge. Just leave people alone and make sure you're not seen. Because what happens if you get seen? People get paranoid and they call the cops. Oh, it might be a Ted Kaczynski. You guys are fucking fruity. Ted Kaczynski was right about a lot of things, but the killing of people, yeah, that was wrong. A lot of his political views I can kind of understand, but killing people, that part is wrong. And maybe he didn't mean for those bombs to kill people, but it certainly was not something that he took any steps to avoid. Why would you bomb people? You know, you could make just as big of a statement by making one out of candy. Like, literally. A dangerous note is just as dangerous if they think that it's real, they think that it's real. Use different colors of licorice for wires, and maybe spin your own sugar into a glass or something like that so they can see what's inside. Some food coloring or some dye. Maybe some of those, you know, those little metal looking things. They're round birthday cake decorations, but they're like chrome looking. They look like little BBs or ball bearings, and they're sugar. It's scary enough if it looks real. I mean, if you're going to spend all that time, he hand carved bombs to go kill people with. Are you kidding me? He didn't use a ghillie suit. He just used a hoodie. For a lot of homeless people, that hoodie saves your life. I got my Superman hoodie here, which I got right after Natalie died. It was only $7. I was cold. Sucks to be me. You're wearing a hoodie. Are you a Unabomber? How many hoodies have there been sold in the United States? A lot, I've ventured to say. Does that make everybody who owns a hoodie the Unabomber? I got something called a rifle wrap. It's basically a bunch of ghillie material that's around a rifle. There's also wraps that are just I'll show you this one, and this one isn't for a rifle. Um, there's a whole bunch of different uses for it as far as concealment goes. You can wrap most of your stuff with it. If you have stuff that's a nice dress pattern, like a dress uniform, and well, not a dress uniform. I guess I've seen the Marine dress uniform. That's pretty. That's not something that they're gonna wear every day. Some of those guys only ever wore those uniforms for pictures, and they had to rent them. Like, that's weird. You have to rent the Marine Corps uniform. Oh, just the dress uniform, dude. It's friggin' expensive. I would imagine it would be. But you've got your battle dress uniform, and if you have any gear that's supposed to be shiny, you might want to wrap it with something so it's less shiny. This right here is medical wrap. I doused it in alcohol, rubbing alcohol, 70%. Or no, it was nail polish remover. And I sprayed it while I had the nail polish remover so that it absorbed the paint. And then I watered it up, and I stuck a Sharpie in it and squeezed it real tight. I did that about 30 or 40 times. And this is actually I use this to tie everything up instead of using rope because I can't carry anything heavy anyway. Rope is for once you get to camp. On my go bag, it's really not that big. If it all hits the fan, this is literally my entire survival kit. Um, there's no knives on it. There's no guns on it. Let me show you. Whistle, signal light, bandanas. Um, if you want to live off in the woods by yourself, you got to have the gear for it. If you know how to use the terrain around you and you know how to make yourself a base camp that's concealed, you don't have to worry about people finding it, even if they're walking on top of it. And the thing about your base camp is that you can basically have a camo net that you crawl underneath. And my camo net is around here somewhere. It's actually supposed to be in here, but I hadn't pulled it out yet, and it can be used to make a ghillie suit. Use natural materials. But instead of carrying a blade, I have a saw. This is just a cheap little camp saw. It only cuts off like little limbs and stuff like that. It's something that if you take care of it, it'll last you a while, and you can repair it easily. But I mean, it's not really meant for long-term use. The idea behind it is by the time you're done with it, you'll have at least what you need to survive out of it. This, of course, is these are pre-made bowstrings that go up to 35 pounds. I can pull 35 pounds if I absolutely have to, I think. I mean, I tried, but I got rid of my bow because I couldn't. I'm kind of hoping I'm in better shape than that, but I don't know for certain. I've got brightly colored orange cord. Stuff right here can be used for signaling and for safety. It's brightly colored. Also, I put it in here so that it's sticking out the top. The reason for that is because I'm not trying to hide. If I was, I wouldn't want to be found. I just want to be left alone. And if you have a decent enough ghillie suit, and let's say you live off in the mountains, but it takes you a couple of days to get to where you live, and for most of that time you're stuck along, trails that most people use. Well, if that's the case, and you hear people coming or you see people coming, you got a ghillie suit that's built for the squatting position, you can stop right there where you're at, or prone. You can just stop and lay down where you're at, wait for those people to pass, get up, and continue on your way. In that particular case, carrying a firearm ain't doing you no good. Carrying a tent is not going to do you any good. I don't have any plastic bags in this at all. I don't have most of the materials for making a ghillie suit in here at all. I got a lot of paracord though. That can be used to help tie up and shore up things in a hurry. You can make your own rope, and it's actually pretty easy, but it's time consuming. And when you first start off, you're going to be burning a lot of calories. You got to find a way to conserve calories and stay on the move. The less weight you carry, the better. Now that stalker, yes, that's what I called him, a stalker. And that video, let me see, it's on this computer. I have him up. Let me see what it says. It's mail call Mondays, season 2, number 48, Marine Sniper Ghillie Suit overview. He has a lot of points. Like he says, there's no use for it in the civilian world. That's for the most part true. But if you live out in the mountains and you don't want to be seen, you have a civilian use for it. You also have a civilian use for a firearm in that situation. But that's just because there could be wild animals, but there are wild animals. There's wild animals in the middle of the city. Come on now. You don't actually need a rifle for that. It's scary. You encounter a bear, you got every reason to be scared. If you're in a ghillie suit, it might confuse the crap out of him. Bear mace is pretty useful. I don't have any of that. The Scottish making their ghillie suits out of burlap. It was a full suit. And basically, if you're trying to prone out every time you see people so that they don't get paranoid of you and go calling the cops or whatever. Like I'm not well kept. I'm not pretty. A lot of times people see a homeless person pretty much anywhere. They're paranoid. They must be up to no good. They're homeless or they look filthy. They must be up to no good. They must be bad people because they're filthy or nasty, or hopefully they're not close enough to smell you. But if you stink, you stink, and that scares people too. Your ghillie suit in modern day is your outfit that you put on every day. Whether you're wearing a hoodie or a business suit, what you're trying to do is fit into your environment. In an urban environment, that's cities and such, straight lines are a good and important thing in a lot of areas. Your clothing, if you're in an area with a lot of people in business suits, and you're wearing a business suit, you fit right in. If you have a suit like they have in that one spoof movie, one of the Naked Gun movies. Like the guy turns into a chair. He's literally a chair. Now that might work in somebody's living room if they have that very specific chair. Yeah, you might get them with that trick. That's pretty cool. But you're not gonna go sit at a bus stop with that thing and not have people go, man, somebody needs to drag that trash away. What the heck is it doing here? Does it stink or something? It must stink. Why'd they drop it off on the curb? A lot of people's ideas of concealment are anti-concealable. When you're off in the woods and you're wearing a ghillie suit and somebody spots you and recognizes the ghillie suit as something that people don't normally wear, they might jump to conclusions and call the police too. But if you make the ghillie suit right, then you won't be seen. From a shooter's perspective, he's pointing right at whatever it is that he has as a potential attacker towards him. He might just have a veil. Um, that's a little bit of this material over a hat. Like instead of having a shield here like this, it's burlap and local grasses that are attached to it that break up your head and your shoulders a little bit. They might have a couple of shoulder pads to strap around. I saw one guy who had it was a robe, or not a robe, a cloak, but it was literally just a string, a shoestring, a literal shoestring, and on it, it's got a whole bunch of, jute with some natural stuff, and the jute, it kind of looks like grasses from a long distance, dead grass. But you can use it to tie in natural materials or natural plants or anything like that, and that's all he had. It's like 4 ounces. That's all the extra pack weight that he had for his entire ghillie suit, and it's just one shoestring. Um, but he wasn't. He had a lot more hair than me, and he wasn't really. He was more mountain man. I'll say that. Um, but I've known people that have similar stuff. Some people have a what's called a stalker's cap. If you got that shoestring, you get one of the longer ones, or they come in a set of two, so you could make one. That's literally the same thing that a rifle rack is. If you're in a grassy area, a lot of reed grasses and such, they'll die for most of the year. And if you're out there in that, or maybe a cornfield, you're kind of the right color for the area, and your outline is broken up. And some of the rye and the wheat that eventually blows into the fields and dies out there, you kind of fit in with it. But this right here will make you stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, it's got concentric patterns, or looks to be. They're all kind of in the same direction, and then it kind of looks like a spiral around the outside of it. So even though it looks kind of patterned, it's not really nicely patterned. So something like this, you can hit up with a little bit of spray paint. Just a little bit. It doesn't take much. This right here, this is because I was planning on having because of COVID, I figured people having to keep their distance, they can still have a social activity where they can still talk trash and still be out a little bit and be at an appropriate distance from each other. But I got a lot of skills that could be used for ulterior motives, and I choose not to do those things. That does not mean that I don't know how they were done. That doesn't mean that I haven't heard 1,000,001 people tell me, oh man, if I was going to do it, I'd do it like this, and I'd do it like that. Man, if I was going to do it, I wouldn't. See, that's how you get away with committing a crime, is you just don't commit the crime. Plain and simple, don't commit the crime. But if you have to commit a crime out of matter of necessity, keep that in mind. It's necessary, which means that there's no reason to hide it. I didn't hide any of the crimes that I had to commit because I had to commit them for the safety of others. I'm not going to feel bad about that. I feel bad that I had to. A lot of what worked me into a frenzy was people I care about telling me that they were being threatened, telling me that they were being intimidated. That ain't right. I could have gotten what they were saying a good long time ago if they were saying anything worth hearing. And by that I mean the police. I've been trying to work with them, and it's just not not something that's working. This is a Camelback. This is bright orange. It's got flashers on it. This right here is better for urban environment. This one is a knockoff, solid grab. It's not the best tactical nylon or anything, and the webbing is super strong, but it's cheap as crap. Um, I mean, it's a terrific thing. It's super lightweight, which is important when you got to carry hydration. Water is important. Salt is important. If you got to go off in the woods, you want to pack as much salt as you can. I don't have any salt in any of my stuff. It's stuff that I apparently forgot to grab. But this is better for an outdoor thing anyway. Now this right here, that very same shoelace thing, I'd put a lot more on it. It'd probably be about 10 to 12 ounces for it. But you can start up here on this and just string it across all of these points. There's 6 of them all together with these plastic things. And then there's also the top and the center that can be wrapped around, and basically you can make your back so that it's not seeable. If you're going to be somebody who's going to go completely flat prone, like say you're trying to get through a state park so that you can get to a national forest that's on the other side of the state park, and when you get to the national forest, you'll be far enough out that you can basically live in the base of a tree. And that sounds crazy, doesn't it? I've seen people live inside of trees in Boulder, Colorado, in the city of Boulder. Anything is possible. If you want to live in a hobbit hole, you can literally live in a hobbit hole. If you know enough about trees and their root systems, you can pick a good tree for living in. I've never seen anyone living literally inside of the tree itself in real life, but I've seen people live in the root structure of trees. Just a small little hovel. The one in Boulder, it's actually it's about half the size of this bed here. It's about a foot and a half tall, and it's just big enough for a person and his backpack to roll in there and go to sleep for the night, and then get up in the morning and come back outside. There's a little crook in between the trees, or in between the roots like this, where it comes out. And he's got a piece of stone on top of it, and that's his door. And he opens it up, comes out, he goes about his day, and he goes back, opens up his rock, slides himself in, and goes to sleep for the night. He's real paranoid when he sees people because he doesn't want them to know where he sleeps. It is in public property and public view. I mean, if they put cameras all up and down the Boulder Bike Trail, then he wouldn't be able to go to sleep anymore. The border police would come and get him, and he's gone with his stuff. Concealment. A ghillie suit doesn't have to be some big expensive thing. This guy, he's talking about adding 3 to 4 pounds worth of weight to something that's already 3 to 4 pounds worth of weight. You're talking about 8 extra pounds you're carrying with you. 8 pounds. Now you want to add a rifle, you're looking at about 8 to 12 pounds. And then you want to look at your ammunition, and you're talking about another 8 to 12 pounds. You've already packed on about 25 pounds worth of crap. 25 pounds worth of useless crap. This nylon paracord, I didn't get a green one because the one that I saw that was kind of sort of a military green looking thing, it was way expensive. This is like $2, $3 maybe. This one was about the same price. The reason for the price difference is this one right here, they wanted more for the safety stuff. See the size difference? The black one's obviously a lot bigger for the same price. Now, I do have one piece of, I guess you would call it proper equipment for military, and it's not this. This is called a bandolier. It's usually used for carrying bullets or for carrying um, magazines full of bullets. I don't need any bullets. I'm not going to go shoot anything. Snaring is a lot easier. This right here is a grenade launcher site. I do not own a grenade launcher. Um, sorry, but it's got a level on it, and it's also got a rangefinder on it, if you know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I haven't been trained in how to do it, but um, I'm assuming it's based on landmarks and the measurement system on the back. But it can also be used as a level. And that's important if you're trying to survey the land to try to find an area. Sometimes when you go through an area, it might be a little bit more hilly or rolly than you originally anticipated. People have actually parked themselves in the middle of a flood lane. Those of you who live in Louisiana know what that is. Those of you who live in Florida know what that is. Those of you who live at the base of a canyon know what that is. It's a flood lane. It's where, if you get flooding, everything that is flooding out dumps right through there as if it were a river the whole time. If you build your house there, you're going to have a bad day. See, I don't know what language this is in, but I'm assuming it's Korean. I believe it's a Korean bandolier. I got a couple of pencils, although that's not going to help me in a survival situation. It does help to calm my mind, and I do know how to make my own paper. I just don't know necessarily how to get my own lead to make pencils. There's a lot of other stuff I can do anyway once I'm up there, like after my first night having a fire, which you want to try to avoid at all costs. Um, Having a fire is always a bad idea in that scenario. You can have a pit for warmth. Basically, what you do is you take a piece of metal, like a pan or something, and you dig yourself a hole, like a cookie sheet, sorry, and you put the cookie sheet over the top of the hole. And if you have something that's in there that smolders a little bit, then it'll keep everything above it a little bit warmer. And you can do that relatively easily without producing any smoke, as long as you have dry wood. Dry wood doesn't send up a bunch of smoke. And also, it burns incredibly slowly enough that really you're dealing with resonant heat that you trapped in the hole that is wanting to come out somewhere. And it comes out in the ground around it. And there's a lot of little tricks like that that once you know how to do them, it's not a problem. In that case, you need fire equipment, but I don't have anything on here to make fire. There's nothing on my survival kit to make fire. I should have something, but I don't. These right here are pretty useful, especially in a medical kit. They can be used as slings and such, or a tourniquet. Or a head cover or a scarf. It's got tassels and stuff, but it does kind of break up the outline a little bit. And people are becoming a little bit more familiar with them. This actually is a designation in some places of your rank and standing and what military unit you're with. It can break up your outline pretty well from a distance. The methodology of just stop and wait, that's pretty important. If you are on a trail, traveling at night is pretty important, but if you don't have the eyes for it, you're screwed. I can see at night. So that's not a problem. Most people can't see at night. I've never understood it. Um, Something to do with the cones and the rods or something. I don't know. I know that has to do with being able to see color, but I don't know. I guess it's just most people don't stay out in the dark long enough for their eyes to adjust. That's what I chalk it up to. Most people, when it's nighttime, they want to close their eyes and go to bed, especially if they're stuck out and about and it's just them and they're scared and alone. Of course, they usually find difficulties going to sleep in that scenario too. So going out at night and not being afraid of the dark, that's a tough one for a lot of folks. Yes, there is creepies out in the dark. There's creepies out in the light. There's creepies all over the place. Because you know spiders exist both during the day and at night. I know, wow, shocker, right? Also wear it as a shawl if I wanted to. Sure looks pretty. But Ghillie methodology, that's the idea of carrying a big massive suit. This right here, it's already too much for me. I take about an 8-foot section of it and call that good. It's super lightweight, and 8 foot worth is enough to give me a decent enough cover for a night or three. Whatever it takes to build myself into a decent shelter. Making an artificial mat where you take, some local grasses and stuff and just weave them together into a small net or something that can be used to hide your gear in a lot of different places. You can also make yourself a permanent door for your house that people aren't going to find. If you grow specific grasses around it and on it, then you can utilize it every day and get in and out of it. Take little pockets. Basically, you take like a bottle cap. You put that in the bottom of a corner of a plastic bag, and you put a little tree in there, a little bit of local grasses, and you put it in there. Put some dirt in there and some nutrients. You can actually build yourself a ghillie suit that's alive. Just lay it out on a table or lay it out on the ground. It doesn't matter. Plants that are attached to it they're gonna grow. And as long as they have a way to continue to absorb nutrients, they'll do quite well. Another thing you can do is you can grow it somewhere where there's a lot of vines. When the vines are all grown all up in it, you go out there with a flat shovel and you scrape the top of the ground underneath your ghillie suit, and you basically pry your ghillie suit off the ground. That was a really cool idea, by the way. I wish it had been mine. Well, mine to begin with. The smaller a mesh that you have that you're doing that with, the more it's going to hold stuff in there. And different grasses, they grow pretty straight, but the vines can kind of help to hold stuff like that in place too. And it's a dirty thing, you know. So for the most part, what that guy had to say about a ghillie suit in real life for most civilians, yeah, there's not very many uses. For fending off poachers, yeah, that's a good use. For investigative journalism, that's a good use, depending on where you're at. If you're Billy the Kid or Bonnie and Clyde, well, you're too busy doing other things to be trying to get away from everybody. I want to get away from everybody, but I'm not going to run the way to do it. Not as long as they keep giving me hope. People like Star giving me hope, although she's dashed my hopes altogether now. Not intentionally. It's money issues. It doesn't make her a bad person, and it doesn't make me a bad person. I'm just broke. Oh, hydration is important. Salt is important. You don't need something scary like this. Absolutely no need for it. It's right here. It's camo, so it's kind of going to stick out in an urban environment. People are going to think you might be a little bit militant. I don't usually wear hats indoors, but you don't have to be a mass murderer or a bomber or something crazy like that to be interested in the outdoors. You don't have to be a killer or a murderer or a rapist or anything like that to want to get away from mean people. And I'm not sure how many of y'all noticed, but our courts and our justice system and our police and our caseworkers and social workers, all the way up to the very top of our government, these are all bullies. Now, every single one of them can't be a bully. You're right, there's a few of them that probably started this year that are going to quit by the end of the year. Those are the good people. They go, oh my God, this is what being a police officer is about. This is what being a caseworker is about. It hurts. If you got to get away from people, get away from people. just wish they'd let me